In this episode of Spotlight TV, we're going back 33 years to Nashville's most popular street, where the real murder on Music Row took place. It is a story of fame and greed that many people have never heard before. Even those that have never heard what really took place that night on Music Row. Even now, many of the residents either have forgotten or were never given the full details. 10 years after the murder, the story would be put down into a song, although with a completely different meaning. Many country music fans are familiar with the 1999 hit song by George Strait and Alan Jackson. What many don't know is that their version was a cover of a song that was first recorded by the bluegrass group Larry Cordle and Lonesome Standard Time. It was the title track for their record of the same name. Now, George Strait and Alan Jackson performed the song at the 1999 CMA Awards as a protest against the rise of country pop music that seemed to be taking over country music. The performance made such an impact with country music fans that Murder on Music Row became widely popular. The next year at the CMA Awards, George Strait and Alan Jackson won the award for Vocal Event of the Year, thanks to that powerful performance. Now, would you believe that was not the end of this song's story? The duo recorded a studio version of the song that surprisingly made its way on country radio. What's surprising about that is that the song was never released as a single. Their version even managed to peak on the charts. To this day, fans consider it a country music staple. While the song tells the heartbreaking story of traditional country music losing control in a once dominated industry, the events are merely fiction. Now you say, that's all fine, David, but you said this was about a real murder. Was that just clickbait? I hear you, and no, it's not clickbait. Let's rewind our clock back to the spring of 1989, when two young men got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. That place is affectionately known as Music Row. Two young men, Kevin Hughes and his buddy Sammy Sadler, were leaving a recording studio on March 6th, when out of nowhere an armed gunman wearing a ski mask and dark clothes opened fire on them. Now, even after being shot 3 times, 23-year-old Hughes attempted to escape the scene. Before he could make it to safety, though, he was given a fatal shot to the back of the head. Now, his buddy, 21-year-old Sadler, fared better, but only slightly. While being shot in the shoulder and while he was severely wounded, he managed to get to safety. The attacker left the 16th Avenue crime scene so quickly that no one was able to get a good enough description or find any evidence that would lead to its whereabouts. The attack on Hughes and Sadler became the mystery of the year. Even though the case was on everyone's lip, no one seemed to have any answers. Even the police for a time were baffled. First off, they couldn't figure out if it was an intentional attack, a robbery gone wrong, or even a suspect with a motive. It was only after years had gone by, when investigators were beginning to make sense of another case that they were investigating, involving bribery and manipulation that was occurring in the music world, that light would be shed on the real murder on Music Row. Now, to unravel all of this, we have to turn our clock back once again to 1942. That's when one of the industry's first trade magazines, known as Cashbox Magazine, started publishing an edition specifically targeting country music. Cashbox quickly became known for their jukebox chart, which monitored the spins of songs in jukebox console across the nation, including charts for radio play and record sales. This is where the plot thickened. 3 men, Kevin Hughes, our murder victim, Richard D'Antonio, who went by the name of Tony D, and Chuck Dixon all worked together at the time of the murder at Cashbox Magazine. It was there that the trio became involved in what would later lead to Hughes' murder. Their scheme allowed aspiring country stars to bribe the publishers as high as $2,000 for favorable placement in the influential Cashbox magazine ranking. Now, by getting high rankings, the aspiring country stars would gain heavy recognition from managers and labels looking for new artists. It took time, but after some great investigative work, police began to put together the scheme, one detail at a time. Their discovery found that Hughes may have begun to have cold feet, or that his conscience had begun to bother him. He may have simply just found out about the scheme. At any rate, he may have started resisting D'Antonio and Dixon's scheme, or planning to expose it when the murder happened. With fear that Hughes carried powerful information, D'Antonio murdered him on Music Row. As for Sammy Sadler, sadly, he was just a young man caught in the middle. He was truly at the wrong place at the wrong time. Even though he recovered from his injuries, his career never did. You see, Sammy Sadler was set to release his debut album, but the murder left people suspicious of his involvement. Instead, no evidence was ever found against the aspiring singer, and he suffered PTSD following the event. Now, it was 33 years ago that Richard Tony D'Antonio killed the then 23-year-old Kevin Hughes and attempted to murder Sammy Sadler. It took some time for the police to build a case around D'Antonio and Dixon. They struggled to find sufficient amount of evidence to charge them. That changed when in 2003 they finally had a breakthrough. Now, D'Antonio was charged with first-degree murder in the killing of Hughes and assault with intent to commit second-degree murder in the shooting of Sadler. Unfortunately, Dixon had already passed away in 2001, although police believe he was involved. Even though D'Antonio pleaded not guilty, he was still convicted on both counts in September of 2003 and sentenced to life. In September of 2014, he died of natural causes. Cashbox magazine published its final print issue on November 16, well before the full story of the murder on Music Row was ever discovered. Now, for me, this story gives new meaning to the lines of the song. Nobody saw him running from 16th Avenue. They never found the fingerprints of the weapon that was used. But someone killed country music, cut out its heart and soul. They got away with murder down on Music Row. In the end, the murderer was found guilty, and lives were changed forever. And now you know the true story of the murder on Music Row. Okay, that's the end of our video. I sure hope you enjoyed it. If you like this type of video and want us to keep producing them, please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you very much for watching.